the Bible. Our lesson tonight is called "You Wouldn't Do This, Would You?" And it's got a picture of someone putting water in a gas tank. It deals with the subject of taking care of our bodies. And does the Bible address taking care of our health? Let me begin by just reminding you that you are a combination of body, soul, and spirit. The spirit being the breath, the power of life in you. You've got a body. You are, I should say, a soul. And they are inseparable. What I mean by that is, how your body feels, your health, will have a direct connection on your spirit. The clearer your mind, the better prepared you are to resist temptation. Did you hear me? The clearer your mind, the better prepared you are to comprehend and receive eternal themes of truth. Why do you think that we are living in an age where the devil is bombarding young people with all varieties of intoxication and drugs? Their minds are constantly clouded and overstimulated, so they're having a hard time grasping what really matters. God wants us to be healthy. It's so important that we take care of the bodies that God has given us. And there is a very strong connection. For one thing, keep in mind, let's read question 1. Are health principles really a part of true Bible religion? Why don't you say the answer with me there, 3 John verse 2. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospers. Here the prophet is comparing soul prosperity with physical prosperity. Now, is that a new teaching, or is that what Jesus also did? The better part of his time, you find Christ out healing and relieving physical suffering. Jesus believed very much in that, and so should that be part of Christian ministry? Should it be part of the emphasis for us as Christians to focus on physical well-being and physical health? I believe it should be. Number 2, why did God give health rules to His people? To restrict their happiness or to enhance and perfect their happiness? Some people think, once you're saved, you're above any kind of consciousness of taking care of your body. Keep in mind, friends, you are not here as a result of your own effort. You are created as a gift of God in cooperation with your parents. You are not your own. You cannot make life. God makes life. It's a gift, it's a miracle. And I was present with the birth of all my children. I'll tell you what, friends, it is still mind-boggling to me how little people come out of big people. Fully intact the way they do. It's just so fascinating. It's a miracle. Now, incidentally, for the evolutionists out there, Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, said, "Who can tell how the bones do grow in the womb?" It was boggling even for him that people can develop the way they are with eyes that take light in and comprehend all these things and are able to, in order to build a computer that does what the human brain does, I understand you'd need a building, even with modern microchips, you'd need a building as big as the Empire State Building to house it. You need the water of Niagara Falls to power it and the water of Niagara Falls to cool it. One human brain. It's a miracle. Miracle. He wants us to take care of those bodies. Because the clearer our minds, the better we feel. And you know what the bottom line is for everything as a Christian? Don't forget this. The bottom line for everything as a Christian is this. Love God, love your neighbor. Am I right? The reason you want to be in health is not just so you'll feel good, but if you're in better health, you can serve God better. Am I right? If you're in better health, you can serve your neighbor better. And then, of course, love the Lord and love your neighbor as you love yourself. You'll also feel better, too. So the principal reason to take care of yourself is so you can be a better witness and a better servant. And you'll feel better. The world turns that equation upside down. The world says, you are number one. Take care of yourself first. Then take care of your neighbor. Then try and fit God into the schedule somewhere. The secret to happiness is spelled J-O-Y. Jesus, others, you. God, your neighbor, yourself. The secret to happiness is keeping your life prioritized, seeking for God's kingdom, His righteousness, and He'll add the other things to you that you need. Health fits in with that equation. Number 3, do God's health rules have anything to do with eating and drinking? The Bible says, Isaiah 55 verse 2, eat that which is good. And again, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. Now friends, if we are being challenged by the Old and New Testament prophets to eat what is good, to eat and drink to the glory of God, does it stand to reason then it's possible to not eat and drink to God's glory? Otherwise, why would they admonish us to do it? In other words, there are people out there that do not eat and drink to God's glory. Do you know that back in I think it was the 1600s, in England, doctors were prescribing mummy powder for all sorts of ailments? Not mummy powder, mummy powder. They were getting, there was millions of mummies they discovered in Egypt. They were grinding them up and giving it to people as a cure-all for everything. Are you aware that ketchup was developed as a drug? Dr. So-and-so's tomato extract. And the ketchup was invented to be a cure-all. All kinds of strange things out there that people have done to try and find good health. You know that so much of the government's money is spent on dealing with our sickness. If we would follow God's Word, we could take care of the national debt in a couple of years just by prevention. Most of the disease, we're in one of the most sophisticated countries in the world with our medicine, but you realize because of our living habits in North America, we have more variety of disease and more occurrence of disease than many third world countries with our affluence, because our diets are so atrocious in this country. We eat everything that crawls across our plate. And we just don't think. God wants us to eat that which is good.
Friends, find a pen and take down our 800 number and mailing address. We have a wonderful free gift that goes right along with what you're seeing and hearing today. It's the beautifully illustrated complimentary study guide. Our operators are standing by for your call at 800-835-6906. Make certain you give the title of today's study when you phone. And by all means, write us at Amazing Facts, P.O. Box 909, Roseville, California, 95678. Look for this address again at the end of today's telecast. All for good in the U.S., Canada, and U.S. territories.
Friends, I think you know that a camera lens is a little impersonal. That's why I want to hear from you. I treasure each one of your cards, your letters, your words of encouragement, and your comments. We also appreciate your prayer requests. Our office staff gathers every day to pray over each one of them. The address is Amazing Facts, P.O. Box 909, Roseville, California, 95678. God bless you, and I thank you in advance. Question number 4. What did God give people to eat when He created them and provided a perfect diet? And God said, and here's the original diet. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, and every tree yielding seed of the tree in the garden thou may freely eat. They were told they could freely eat from the fruits, grains, and nuts. The original diet for man was what kind of diet? It's a vegetarian diet. Fruits, grains, and nuts. And later, vegetables were added to the diet. God told man you could eat the herb of the field. Under that diet, man lived a long time. You measure the lives of the patriarchs before the flood in centuries. They had tremendous vitality and vital force. Now, I think it was not only their diet, but I think after the flood, the whole environment changed. Fossil records seem to indicate that there was a lot of ferns and a lot of vegetation, even up in the Arctic zones before the flood, which means there may have been a much higher oxygen content. And a number of things may have been different in the environment, not near as harsh. And because of the difference in the environment, because of the better diet, man was living a lot longer. But after the flood, meat became a regular part of man's diet, and the lifespan instantly began to erode. The oldest people in the world today live in the foothills of the Himalayas, or Himalayas, depending on how you say it. They're called the Hunza. They have practically no incidence of the cancers that plague us in America. They're basically a very primitive people, but eating meat is rare for them. On special occasions, they may eat some fowl. They principally farm apricots. Just before I came tonight, I ate 2 dried apricots. I hope it'll help. And they live a long time. It's very, very common to have them 110 years of age. 100 years of age, you're in your prime in Hunza. And they still have their minds. They don't die slowly, drawn out. And so I think all the evidence And even in unchristian circles, doctors are saying now, the doctors even on the radio are confirming, the more you stay away from animal products, the fewer problems you'll have. We've all heard that, haven't we? You can continue cholesterol. You don't get cholesterol from a peanut. You get peanut oil, but not cholesterol. The cholesterol comes from animal products. What is the #1 killer in North America? Heart disease, directly connected with all of the animal product intake. You combine that with the minimal exercise the average American gets because we're so sedentary, we've got such an easy life. All the exercise we get is pressing the telephone button and the elevator button and turning the power steering on our steering wheel and with our automatic cars and just life is so easy that they've got just about every contraption devised possible now to save you from having to get up. We don't even have to get up to change channels, do we? Just sit there. Then we got these chairs now that'll massage you while you sit there with your remote control. And we think this is the good life. Number 5. Now let's get specific. What items are specifically mentioned by God as being unclean and forbidden? Well, first of all, among the mammals, God said all the animals that were to be clean to eat. And maybe I should back up a little bit. The original plan was a vegetarian diet. And incidentally, are you aware we will all be vegetarians in the kingdom? Does everyone know that? Nobody's going to be chasing chickens around in the new city, cutting off their heads. There'll be no Whoppers and Macs there. No Egg McMuffins with the egg or the ham. Everyone there is going to, even the lion will eat straw like an ox. There'll be no death. No animals will die in the kingdom. Now, I'm just getting ready for heaven. That's why I'm a vegetarian now. And another reason is because I feel so much better. My mind is so much clearer. But God, because of the hardness of our arteries, allowed us, He made a provision that if you're going to eat meat, He said, here are the meats you could eat. And He specified among the mammals, what were the 2 qualifiers? It needed to be cloven, hoofed, and chew the cud. Not one or the other. Camel chews the cud, but it's got a paw for running across the desert. A pig has a cloven hoof, but it doesn't chew the cud. It's a scavenger. It needed both characteristics to be clean. A horse may be a vegetarian, but it's got a hoof without a cloven hoof. They're unclean. A rabbit may chew the cud, but they got a paw, and you get worms. As a matter of fact, I used to hunt rabbit, and they used to tell us, make sure you don't eat the rabbits in the months with R in it, like October, September, November, because they have real bad worms during those months. I don't want to eat cooked worms. So that was the rule for the mammals. It had to have a cloven hoof and chew the cud. What was the rule for sea creatures? They needed to have fins and scales, both characteristics. I showed you in the slide program that the Navy engaged some scientists to do research to find out what was a good rule of thumb for sailors, Marines that were lost at sea, pilots even, who got down, that were floating around. They used to catch things that came up around their life rafts. Sometimes they got sick from things they caught. They didn't know what to eat and what not to eat. And they said, if it has fins and scales, it's safe. That was after all their medical research. Now, some things that we think are real delicacies are bad for you. I used to eat a lot of lobster. Lobster is about the highest content of cholesterol of any food. Matter of fact, if you're going to eat lobster, you may as well check into the hospital and ask if you can get an IV drip with cholesterol, because it's almost pure cholesterol. Not only that, lobsters are scavengers. We used to catch them. They crawl on the bottom. The way you catch them is you take a decomposing fish carcass, you put it in a trap, they crawl in, and while they're pulling on that, they can't get back out of the trap. It's a one-way trap. That's how they catch lobsters. They're scavengers. God says you are His temple. He does not want us eating garbage cans. Some animals, like pigs, they're scavengers. They're garbage cans. He does not want us to eat them. Among the fowl that flew in the air, the birds of carrion, owls, buzzards, hawks, they're garbage cans. Has anyone here ever smelled a buzzard? Anyone ever get close enough? Oh, that's a dubious privilege, let me tell you what. God categorizes buzzards and rats and mice and pigs together. Certain animals are here by the grace of God, sharks in the environment, to clean things up. Skunk gets run over, the buzzard cleans it up. Even a pig will eat a dead skunk. Pigs will eat rattlesnakes, and a rattlesnake can bite a pig. Matter of fact, some of the ranchers in Montana, I understand, release hogs before they release the cows, because when the snakes first come out, they all come out in the first few warm days, the pigs will eat the snakes, and if they get bitten, the flesh of a hog is so dense, the poison never reaches the heart. It diffuses. It loses its harm. I understand there's a pore on the back of a pig's hind leg that releases poisons and toxins from their bodies. And if that gets clogged up, the pig can get sick. And some people eat pickled pig's feet. Oh! You know, I used to feed pigs. I had some neighbors that had pigs, and I was a good neighbor, you know, and they'd leave, and they asked if I could take care of their pigs. And it wasn't my favorite thing to do, but I'd take care of their pigs for them. And I'll tell you what, the only thing I can think of to describe it is to tell you that they're pigs. They're just filthy. They'll eat anything. They'll eat each other. I was doing some mechanic work for a rancher named TJ in Texas. They don't have names there, they have letters. And he came in one day after I got done working on his truck, and he looked really depressed. We just had a lot of rain that night. So, what's the matter, TJ? I said, well, my sow had about 23 little piglets, and it rained real hard, and some of them drowned. And I said, well, I'm sorry to hear this. He said, yeah, she's eaten the last of them when I left. Isn't that gross? Good. You know what's worse? Mama pig ate the baby. Some of you ate mama, and you don't even know it. That's right. We're outraged by these things. And you know what I think really fools us is the way we market things. Americans are masters at marketing garbage and making it look like a delicacy. Isn't that right? We eat the most bizarre things in the world. Now, I used to live with my dad in a mansion, and rich people eat some really weird things. We'd go out to dinner, we'd eat escargot, snails. I got them all over my front lawn. And I just can't imagine. I used to eat snails. Ice cream covered ants. I've eaten turtle steak. I ate rattlesnake once. You know what it tastes like? Like rattlesnake. But I don't recommend it. It's really not worth the effort. There's no meat on it. And, I mean, I've eaten squirrel and just all kinds of things. These rich people eat the weirdest things in the world, and you know what? They get sick and die sooner. The longest living people in the world are people in third world countries that eat beans and rice. Isn't that amazing? The food of Babylon is the worst food. All right, and some ask me, what about duck? What category is duck? The clean animals, incidentally, were animals that could also be used for a sacrifice. Don't miss this point. All of the clean animals, sheep, goats, cows, quail, dove, technically chicken was a foraging bird, it was clean. They could be used as sacrifices in the temple. The highest insult you could ever present to God was to bring Him an unclean sacrifice. To bring a pig and offer it to the Lord would be the supreme insult to God. Do you all agree? Bring a pig into the temple would be a terrible insult. All right, your body's the temple of the Holy Spirit. Some of you have offered pigs to God when you put that stuff in your body. You know, a good part of the world won't eat it. Muslims won't eat it. Jews won't eat it. Bible Christians won't eat it. And a lot of Protestants in North America says all you got to do is pray over it and it's okay. God will bless it. Some people have misunderstood that scripture in Timothy, and I hope you write that down because I want to answer that. Just pray over it. How many of you are parents? Let me see your hands. How many of you that are parents care what your children eat? Be honest. Do you think your Heavenly Father cares less about His children than you do about yours? What if you saw your young person getting ready for school one morning and they've got their Fruit Loops and their sugar frosted flakes and they're dumping 13 teaspoons of sugar on top of that to boot, and they don't use regular milk, chocolate milk? And you say, whoa, as you're watching all this, and they say, watch, don't worry, Mom, I'm about to pray. I'm going to bless it. Would you accept that? Or does the Bible say there's something called mocking God? Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. If you spend your time sowing high cholesterol, you cannot shake your fist at God when you get a heart attack. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. And a lot of us think that our Heavenly Father cares less and loves less than earthly parents. He does care what you eat. And that's why He put some things in His Word that describe. And of course, most of the things that the Bible forbids us to eat, we would never think of eating. We don't think of eating mice and rats and moles, and I ate frog legs and all that stuff, but not anymore. Number 6, but I like pork. Will God destroy me for eating it? Now here's a sobering scripture. For behold, Isaiah chapter 66 verse 15, for behold, the Lord will come with fire, and by his sword, it's speaking of the coming of the Lord, by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord will be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse will be consumed together, says the Lord. Now that's the Bible. People who figure it doesn't matter. Matter of fact, in this passage it says hiding behind a tree. They're doing it without anyone looking. I think we just need to recognize that God does care. Our bodies, just because everybody is doing something doesn't mean it's right. Do you agree? Number 7. But didn't this law of clean and unclean animals originate at Sinai? Wasn't it just for the Jews, and didn't it end at the cross? Where does God first make a distinction between clean and unclean animals? For Jews or for Noah? God said to Noah, of all the clean beasts thou shalt take unto thee by 7s, of the beasts that are not clean by 2. Genesis chapter 7 verse 1 and 2. Was Noah a Jew? If Noah's a Jew, we're all Jews, aren't we? So God made it, and then the other question you just need to ask, is a Jewish stomach different? Were these purely ceremonial laws? No, friends, I don't think so. I think that modern science is now confirming what God said through Moses a long time ago, that the best diet is the Edenic diet, the diet that God gave Adam and Eve. And then if you're going to eat meat, if you, instead of going with a green light, you're going to run the yellow light, if you're going to eat meat, you better eat the clean meats. And then to go beyond that for a Christian who reads the Bible is basically thumbing your nose at God and saying, I'm going to do what I want to do because it tastes good and I don't care. Well, I think that God has given us information in His Word that we should follow. You know, the Bible says, blessed are you, O land, when your children eat for strength, when your princes eat for strength and not for drunkenness. Now, be honest with me, friends. When you consider what to eat, what does the average American think of first? What will give me health and strength and vitality, or what's going to taste good? What's very often the first consideration? They don't eat for strength. Instead of eating to live, we live to eat. And I think that we will enjoy our food better if we can choose wisely what we do eat and follow God's guidelines. I enjoy eating as much as the next person, but I brought my life in harmony. You know what I learned? When I grew up in New York City with my mother, now my mother was Jewish, but she was not kosher. We ate lots of pork in our family. We ate all kinds of weird things. We drank alcohol. When we were kids at the table, she served wine, and just everything that crawled across our plate, we'd stick it and eat it. Twinkies for breakfast, my brother and I. Just copious amounts of sugar, cereal. We drank coffee and tea every morning before we went to school. I mean, our diets were atrocious. Finally, when I became a caveman, you know, I was a hermit for about a year and a half. I lived up in the mountains. Because I had no refrigeration, I could very rarely eat the perishables that are so bad for you. I had to buy dry food. I couldn't even buy canned food. It's too heavy to hike up a mountain. You know, canned food, you get 1 meal per can. So I had to buy beans and rice and dry food like that. And as a result of that, I started feeling better. The combination of the fresh air and the good clean water from the mountain springs and the sunshine and all that exercise I got hiking up and down the mountains and eating that good food, I started feeling alive for the first time in my life. I was 17 years old before I felt healthy for the first time in my life. That's hard to believe. You know, I was beginning to accomplish things after I was 17. Matter of fact, I began to, my first back handspring, I'll try by God's grace to demonstrate later, I did when I was 25. Not when I was a teenager in school. And I was able to accomplish so much more when I started following these principles of health that I learned. Then I left the cave, and I went back down to town, and I got a meat business. And I started eating meat 3 times a day, because I figured that was a good life, you know, meat and potatoes. I'd eat filet mignon for breakfast, because I sold meat. I'd take the best cuts. New York steak for lunch. I'd have a T-bone for dinner. I used to butcher my own steaks, and you know what? I started feeling really grubby. My complexion started breaking out, and here I was 19, 20 years old, and I thought I'd gone through that stage already. I just felt really tired all the time. I noticed it was even affecting my attitude. you know how good you feel affects how nice you are? You know, some people, when they're tired, you stay out of their way. That's how I am. When Karen's hungry, leave her alone. Get her something to eat. And so how you feel will affect how nice you are. And that's another reason to eat well, because it's hard to be a positive Christian witness when you're feeling bleh because of the way you're eating all the time. The technical word is yucky. When you're feeling yucky because of the way you're eating. Then I got away and I became a vegetarian because I started learning things about meat. Oh, incidental, you know what I did? My business was called Doug Batchelor's Wholesale Prime Beef Steaks. And mostly I sold beef. Some of my customers said, Doug, can you get me some prime pork? Because I always advertised I had corn-fed beef. Well, I went to my supplier and I asked for prime pork and he laughed at me. He says, they don't grade pork that way, Doug. He says the Department of Agriculture issues statements telling you if you're going to eat it, you better cook it good. They don't grade pork. You've never heard of prime pork. There's no such a thing. It's all pig. This stuff's got trichina larvae in it. And if you look at any pork under a microscope, it's swarming with parasites. Some of it has trichina larvae. Do you know that they feed some of the pigs from the dumpsters of hospitals? What do you think that does to the food? That's a pretty scary thought. Number 8. Does the Bible forbid the use of alcoholic beverages? What's your answer? Oh, I believe absolutely. And I hope we get some more questions on this because I don't have time to deal with it extensively now. But the Bible says, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, whoever is deceived thereby is not wise. 1 out of 7 people that drinks becomes an alcoholic. Do you think a Christian should keep a dog that bites 1 out of 7 people that comes over? Some people might say, well, I can control it. I'm going to drink it in moderation. Keep in mind, those of you that are listening and those on TV, especially those of you that are parents, don't you dare say anything to your children about using drugs, because the fact is more young people die from alcohol every year than all of the other drugs put together. And so if they say, well, I'm just using a little crack in moderation, and you are drinking wine in moderation. My dad one day caught me smoking pot. And he tried to beat me to death for doing it. And I thought, he goes to sleep with 2 martinis every night. And he just became unreasonable whenever he drank. And I thought, what a hypocrite. I could smoke pot and act better behaved than him when he drank his alcohol. The Bible says that we are a nation as Christians of kings and priests. You remember that? Even if you thought you could find evidence in the Old Testament for drinking, maybe you'd like to be like Noah, who drank and ran around naked. Maybe you'd like to be like Lot, who drank and then slept with his daughters. And if you think you can find Old Testament evidence for drinking being okay, in the New Testament tells us we are a nation of kings and priests, and the Bible says priests were not to drink. The Bible tells us, Solomon said, it's not good for kings and princes to drink strong drink because it impairs their judgment. Read about how King Ben-Hadad lost the kingdom because he was drunk when he gave an order. And it was a bad, dumb order. And he lost the kingdom. Half the people who will die tonight on the highway are either drinking or struck by people drinking. Half the people who will land in prison are there because of crimes done while under the influence of alcohol more than any other drug. Over 50%. Over 50% of the people who go to an emergency room are there because of injuries or illness or fighting related to drinking. Over half the people who are in mental institutions are there because of injuries or birth defects related to drinking. More than half of all of the abuse of children and spouses, drinking's at the heart of it. How should a Christian support that industry? You tell me, how much should we support that? With all the good things we got to drink in our society that are not alcoholic, the only good reason is someone would say, because I want to, and Jesus is not my Lord. I want to do what I want to do. I don't believe Christians should drink at all. Amen? It's of the devil. And incidentally, anybody who thinks that it's okay to drink fermented wine for the communion, whoo. The Bible says the bread is to be unleavened. Leaven is a process of fermentation. That wine was to represent the sinless blood of Jesus. The first miracle of Jesus was to give us fresh, new wine. The last part of his life, they gave him bitter, sour wine as he was on the cross. He traded wine with us. He poured out his sinless blood. It's to be unfermented. Fermentation is the process of rottening. You're not going to tell me the blood of Jesus is symbolized by something that's decomposing. You ever lift up the garbage can when it's been a little while before you took it out and you get that fermentation odor that wafts up into your nostrils? That's rottening. To equate the blood of Jesus with something fermenting, it's blasphemy. I've got a friend who was an alcoholic, and he was dry and sober for a long time. He went to a church where they served this much wine during the communion service and it was fermented. That's all it took, and he started drinking again. Got some other friends who were Christians that thought it was okay to drink a little wine once a week. Just a little, once a week. They invited a young man over. During the dinner, the father went around, he poured a little white wine in each cup, and the mother was getting the victuals ready. And this young fella just started getting real nervous, and pretty soon he started perspiring, and the man could see he was disturbed, and he said, "Is there a problem?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "I'm an alcoholic, and whenever I'm with my friends, I brace myself not to drink, and I just didn't expect to find it here after coming home Sunday for dinner." Should Christians be that kind of witness? No, the Bible tells us that we are not to make anybody stumble. Why? Because of love for our brother. And if you really love your brother, you won't drink at all. I used to pastor a church where all of them were alcoholics. I pastored a Navajo Indian church. And my Navajo friends who are listening will admit they are born with a built-in propensity to alcoholism. Born with it. If I drank 1 glass of wine a month, I might be able to control it. But as soon as they found out, they could say, "Doug drinks." And they could try to drink 1 glass a month. They couldn't do it. By my example, I could kill them. Christians should not drink, friends. Amen? Well, now that I settled that. All right, let's go on to number 9. Does the Bible condemn the use of tobacco? What do you think? It doesn't say, "Thou shalt not smoke Marlboro." Well, come on, friends, use your brain. It says on every pack, warning, this stuff is going to kill you cold and dead. And the Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill." Warning, this stuff will hurt those around you who breathe it. Warning, it causes birth defects. Your body's a temple of the Holy Spirit. Remind me some night, I'll tell you how I quit. Now, incidentally, quitting is really very easy. I did it 100 times. Staying quit was another story, but remind me sometime, I'll tell you about that. Number 10. What are some of the simple yet very important health laws that are found in the Bible? I'm going to go through these things quickly as I can. First of all, regularity in the time you eat. You know, your body has a clock, and if you eat at regular times, you'll feel better. Your body will adjust to that. I'm on a different schedule during these meetings. I eat twice a day. And I eat once, about noon, and I have a little something after the meeting. And I don't normally eat on that schedule, but if I eat just before the meeting, it's bad enough if you sleep during the sermon, but when I go to sleep during the sermon, it's really bad. I've got a metabolism where right after I eat, I need a nap. And after breakfast, Karen will tell you, I take a nap. I just shut down. She knows, don't talk to him. He doesn't hear anything. Don't eat too much. You can eat too much of even good food, right? You know, one of the secrets to happiness and health is wake up while you're still a little sleepy. Push away from the table while you're still a little hungry. Then your apostat will kick in and you'll stop feeling hungry about 5 minutes later. Answer C, don't harbor envy or hold grudges. A lot of people are sick not because of what they eat, but what's eating them. Some people are bitter and it's destroying their health. Stress can make a person sick, and that's under number D. Maintain a cheerful, happy disposition. Think on the bright side. Count your blessings. Some people are so negative. They go through life and all they can do is focus on what's wrong with everybody and what's wrong with everything. You'll feel better, you'll live longer if you can have a better attitude, and you can invest effort in having a better attitude. Amen? Answer E, put full trust in the Lord. Don't live in fear. It causes a lot of stress. Live by faith. Accept the peace that Jesus offers. Answer F, have a balance. Be temperate in your work and your exercise. Some people work themselves to death. Work and work and work until they're the richest bodies in the graveyard. Answer G, keep your body clean. Lots of water on the inside and the outside is very important for good health. First thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I hydrate my body. You know, you dehydrate during the night because of breathing. You release moisture. You wake up thirsty. If you eat just before you go to sleep, you wake up thirsty too. You need to leave some time between when you eat and when you go to sleep so that you can digest a little food. You don't want to drink too much water before you go to sleep, or you don't sleep anyway, for obvious reasons. Now, your mind is an electrochemical computer. Electricity is conducted by, water conducts electricity. The better hydrated your brain is, the clearer you will think. Your body will absorb water better in the morning. Drink a lot of warm water in the morning and you'll live long and feel good. That's one way I'm able to stay well during a time like this where I'm visiting so many different people. Some of them are sick. To try and keep from getting a cold, I drink lots of warm water. Number L, avoid harmful stimulants. People in our country, a lot of folks never drink water. All they drink is Coke and Pepsi and tea and coffee. Every part of your body is a cell. Every cell in your body is fed and cleaned by blood. Your blood is cleaned by your kidneys and your liver. What cleans your kidneys? Not Coke, Pepsi, or coffee. Water. Some people, I've met people who, I know a girl, she was married to a Coke distributor. She had her gallbladder removed at 24. She used to drink 2 liters of Coke every day. She's like this all the time. She's wired. Incidentally, if you become addicted to something, then it's not good for you. I've never seen a person say, what's the problem? I haven't had a banana all day. Unless they got a potassium deficiency. You only become addicted to the things that are bad for you. And while we're on the subject, do you know by any definition, sugar can fit the definition of a drug? Americans eat more sugar. You saw that in the slide presentation the other day. Somebody brought me in a piece of sugar cane. You know what this is? This is 2 teaspoons of sugar. 2 cubes of sugar. That's how much, you know how concentrated things have to become to get the sugar that you and I eat so prolifically? And you know why we have so much diabetes? Because our pancreas is in shock constantly trying to maintain the level because we oversugar our bodies all the time. Read the ingredients of the things that you buy. And I wonder if I throw that down, if it'll turn into a serpent. All right, we got to rush along here. Be temperate in all things. Don't do too much of even good things. J, make mealtime happy. I think that food, even healthy food, ought to be presented in an attractive way. If you plop it down and it looks like gray mush, my boys leave the room whenever I eat breakfast. It scares them because what I do is I mix 4 or 5 different cereals together and then I use soy mix and then I mix in peanut butter and I'll tell you, it doesn't look very pretty. They say, oh, Dad, that's gross. So food should be presented in an attractive way. Answer K, help those who are in need. It's true. Help those who are in need. You know, sometimes we feel bad because all we think about is ourselves. You listening to me? We're so preoccupied with ourselves. A lot of our health would improve if we would spend our time blessing others. God will perform a miracle to help you if He's got a good reason. If He can use you to help others, He might heal you. Some of us are so self-centered, He thinks this is a waste of time. Make them feel good so they can sin better. But we spend our time serving the Lord. Number 11. What solemn reminder is given to those who ignore God's rules? Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. It's Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. If we sow unto ourselves lots of sugar and lots of fat and lots of cholesterol, we're going to reap health problems and cancer. Number 12, what fearful, shocking truth about health involves our children and even our grandchildren? You pass on your health to your posterity. And incidentally, the best thing you can do to avoid heart disease, choose your ancestors very carefully. Because they say that that's one of the things that affects what's going to happen to your heart. That's actually not the only thing you can do. You can do things in your diet. The Bible says, thou shalt not eat it, that it might go well with thee and your children after thee. Number 13, what more fearful and sobering fact does God's Word reveal? The Bible says, in the kingdom there will be nothing that defiles. The Bible says, your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Whoever defiles that temple, him will God destroy. You read in the book of Daniel chapter 1, one of the reasons that God blessed Daniel is he would not defile himself with the unclean Babylonian food. The end of Daniel chapter 1 says he was 10 times wiser, and he and his friends lived to the reign of King Cyrus. They all lived to be about 100 years of age. They lived longer, they were smarter, and after 10 days test, they were 10 days wiser. Maybe after 30 days, they would have been 30 times wiser than all the wise men. And those of you who are students, you want to get better grades? Listen to this. Growing up, I was a dropout. I went to 14 different schools. I did very poorly in school. When I changed my diet, I went back to college, at Southwestern Adventist College. I had a 4.0 average. I think some of it's connected with the change in my lifestyle. And you know what? I never took notes. You probably learned that already. I was able to listen to the lectures and remember. My mind was clearer because I started eating different. Number 14. What should every sincere Christian endeavor to do? Take care of our bodies because we love the Lord. Let's cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and the spirit. Now, some people say, well, if you're a vegetarian, you're missing your B12. I've always wondered, where's a cow get B12? Now, let me tell you, I never started doing this on purpose. What I started doing, I was doing a presentation on health one time, and someone said, vegetarians aren't healthy. They're anemic. I said, oh, yeah? And so during the program, I did a back handspring. Well, it became an ongoing tradition. But I only do it under one condition. If there's someone here who is willing to say, I'll become a vegetarian if you do this, then I'll do it. Now, in a group this big, there ought to be at least, all right, we got a volunteer back here that said, you'll become a vegetarian if I do this. Okay. Y'all pray for me. I have not practiced this today. One of these days, we're going to have to give this up. They tell me they got the paramedics standing by. Oh. Did you all hear me groan when I landed? Number 15. But I'm worried because some of my evil habits have bound me so tightly. What can I do? Why don't you say this one with me? Philippians 4:13. As many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. What's the Lord going to do for those that receive him? He gives us power to become sons of God. He'll give you power to overcome. Now you might be thinking, oh Doug, you're making a big deal about what we eat or what we drink. You know why there's sin in the world today? Because of what someone ate. Don't you tell me it does not matter. You know how Esau lost his birthright? He sold it for a pot of beans. Don't tell me, friends, it doesn't matter. You're going to get all kinds of people approach you with clever arguments saying, now we're in the New Testament, it doesn't matter what we eat anymore. What kind of God do you think we serve? Do we no longer have bodies that have real needs? You mean we'll listen to what a doctor tells us, but we won't listen to Jesus and God? Of course it makes a difference. And we're ready and willing and anxious to answer your questions regarding what the Bible says about eating to the glory of God. Number 16, what thrilling promises are given about God's new kingdom? The good news is the inhabitants shall not say, I am sick. There'll be no more death, no more sorrow, no more sickness. Incidentally, everybody there is going to be eating from the tree of life and be vegetarians. They'll mount up with wings like an eagle. They'll run and not be weary. How many of you want to get a new body when Jesus comes? Do you realize you are not your own? You've been bought with a price. Paul says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present yourselves a living sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Holy and acceptable. You can't fill your body with unholy things and present a holy sacrifice. And if you want to trade this one in on a newer model, if you don't take care of the one God gives you, if you're deliberately defiling and destroying your body in the name of faith, in the name of freedom, then I would not count on getting an eternal body when Jesus comes. Number 17. Since healthful living is truly a part of Bible religion, are you willing to follow God's health rules? Answer? I hope your answer is yes, Jesus.